Hi, welcome everyone. I hope you're all doing great today. We are all excited to have you here for our podcast, wherein we will hear the experiences of few amazing people who we have invited. I'm Eva. I'm a partner operations manager with the Cloud Customer Experience Organization of Google. For the Cloud Sprint viewers, please let us know you are here by filling in the attendance form in the event description below. A quick introduction about why we are here today. In these unprecedented times of pandemic, as we all are working from home, the term work-life balance has evolved to work-life blend. So we definitely need some new best practices to keep up with the learning and upskilling and balancing in our life. We have three amazing guests today, and I've been working with these three people for close to a year now. Apart from managing their large teams and complex business, I observe them as great leaders in managing themselves. And we definitely need to get some best practice from them for upskilling and balancing. We have Rajat Pandit, who is the head of customer engineering of Google India. We also have Ankit Sinha, who is the vice president of CS Incorporation from our partner ecosystem. And we do have Vani Subramanian, who is the manager of advanced support team, leading a team of data and AI experts. Let's have a quick round of introduction and hear more from them. Let me not steal the show. Over to you, Rajat.
Cool. Thanks for the introduction, and I hope everyone's keeping safe and well. It's always fun to introduce myself because I've pretty much done every job in IT that you can think of. So, being an engineer, sysadmin, and that's probably where I get my sense of humor from. Being in engineering management, and more recently in cloud engineering, and that's kind of the best of all the world, really. So it takes all the best parts of engineering, industry awareness, and the pre-sales skills. So it's a great opportunity to apply all the learnings from all these years to help organizations get the same value. So look forward to having the conversation today.
I'll go next. Yeah, this is Ankit. I am representing CS here. I'm the vice president for the consulting teams here. 16 odd years of experience. Again, a lot of the years in the technology industry. Typically started working with the large IBMs and SAPs of the world, and now trying to do something to in the services space here at CS and trying to take CS global. Look forward to talking to all of you. Vani, over to you.
Thank you so much. So, hello everyone. I'm Vani Subramanian. I'm a technical solutions engineering manager at Google, supporting Google Cloud Platform, part of the global team that provides technical support to our GCP enterprise customers and partners across GCP stack and products, specifically focusing on data and AI. I started my career in a product application industry, specifically data industry, and then bounced around and moved to a cloud enterprise company. And here I am at Google. So looking forward to having the conversation with all of you.
Thank you for the introduction round. And I've been working with you for almost a year now. And every time I work with you, I do have a lot of questions. Finally, for my own selfish reason, at least, I would like to put all the questions together. And I'm going to ask all of those questions. And I'm sure it's going to be very useful for the Cloud Sprint learners as well. So, Ankit, I see you as the technology people leader from the partner ecosystem. Do you believe in this term, leading with tech intensity?
You are sure, undoubtedly. I mean, isn't that what is most lovable thing about technology? That it kind of forces you to apply yourself every single day. Uh, I could give my personal example. I think it was around 2017. We had a lot of SaaS background people. I myself came from the SaaS industry, and then you had words like Kubernetes being thrown at you. Uh, not a DevOps engineer myself, no clue about containers, and this definitely seemed Greek and Latin. Today, 3 years down, we know that everybody who's in the cloud, a lot of my own customers are running 100% of their production workloads on Google Kubernetes engine. And to think of it, I kind of hated the word a few years back. This is the cycle that actually continues every single day. Every organization which is essentially thriving, not just surviving, but thriving, is actually pivoting every single day. And I kind of tell my folks, and we tell it ourselves, I mean, forget others, is that we need to obviously keep doing new things every day, because that's what makes tech interesting and that's what makes tech relevant. If we do not pivot as companies, companies begin to basically flounder. If we do not pivot ourselves every day, that's when we see that even people start to fall behind. uh, I interview a lot of people, and you can definitely judge very, very quickly if the person is just being good at his job that he's been or she's been doing for the last 10 years, or is this person who still has the fire or she has the fire in them to kind of learn and pick up new things. And that is only visible if they're spending this time intensely on a daily basis. I could keep talking about it, but I think it's very important. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. And I really love that word every day that you have mentioned. True. It's actually a continuous journey. And I'm sure there must be some learning pattern also around it. So, Rajat, I do have this next question for you. How often do you learn, and what is your learning pattern, if there is any?
Well, thank you. I was listening intently to Ankit's point of view of this currently, constantly evolving ecosystem that we live in. So yeah, I think learning is a constant in every one of our lives, and for me particularly as well, because of the fast-paced tech industry that I'm part of. But if I were to look at the patterns that you asked, I would probably look at it in two ways, really. So the first one is trying to understand what is there to learn, because there's so many things and you really can't master everything. So you've got to be able to figure out what you want to focus, what do you want to learn. The second part is, what do you need to do to get the required learning going. So if I were to look at the first part of just trying to figure out, staying top of what are the new trends, what is going on in the industry, I do this interesting habit of what I call habit stacking. And what that really means is you combine two of your good habits or more than two and see if you can do them together. So I like walking or running, and I like listening to audiobooks, podcasts, news, those sort of things. So combine them together. And so when I go out for a walk, I can listen to a book or listen to whatever new stuff I want to be aware of what's happening in the industry. Um, Obviously, this means you can't do this when you're working with kids, because with constant interruption you can never pay attention. But that's just stuff that I deal with. On the second side, on the second approach around the kind of the learning process itself, because I'm in the tech industry, a lot of that stuff, a lot of the learning is by building stuff, because that is how you actually see things come together in a meaningful manner. And typically what I realize is that if I were to go back 5-10 years back, where you would pick up a book and read cover to cover before you did something, you would get to chapter 10 before you'd see any of that stuff to come together. But if you start off with a project in mind and you say, I'm going to learn this to do that, you can figure out what are the 2-3 key ingredients that you really need to master before you can build something meaningful. And that really helps you evolve around it. And just on the same line of thought, not everything that you learn has something that you can build against, right? So maybe it's a new management strategy or a new, way of presenting or engaging with the audience, or some new soft skill, for instance. So a lot of that you can get away with, kind of sharing that learning back in a form of a blog post or an article or something like that. So it not only shares the information with the wider world, but also gets you thinking about how would you recap what you just learned and help you retain that a little longer. So that's kind of my two top tips on that. Hopefully that helps anyone who's listening to this.
Okay, now I understand why you're a social media sensation in LinkedIn. A lot many people follow your blogs and they tag you when they are done with their certifications. Okay, and I really like this combining two task thing, walking and learning podcast. That's nice, and because I do see this kind of multitasking a lot with Vani, because I work with her day in and day out, and along with her team, she's not only a mom of two kids who is helping them learn. She is also learning herself. She's doing her MTech during her weekend in data science. I was like, wow, how can she do that? So definitely I need to ask you, Vani, what is your strategy to keep yourself updated in this VUCA world?
Yeah, I would say it is still a trick question, right? There isn't an easy part in this being a working parent, and there isn't easy a single way to do it as well, right? Even if I take the learning part out of the equation, there is a whole spectrum of approaches, right? Practically ignoring my family and practically ignoring work, right? So the word of advice or the operative word that I would use here is a kind of balance, right? Balancing between work, family, and learning. And I believe that there is no right time to do a course or acquire a skill set, right? It needs to be continuous, as Rajat and Ankit already mentioned, right? So, one thing that I usually try doing is finding that habit, that hack, that rule, or the ritual, right? Rajat already mentioned about it, that works for you while being a working parent. This is a process of trial and error. It starts at the moment you set eyes on a skill that you would like to learn, and it never really ends, right? So, as you said, when pursuing my master's in data science engineering, at the start of each semester of the course, I plan in advance, right? I chalk out, study activities that needs to be done and the timeline for the same. I got tons of support from my family and my organization as well, and I can vouch for it. It gets better over a period of time. So, one thing that I would like to call out here is that one underestimated facet is how the organization probably that you work plays a crucial role in your learning as well, right? For me personally, this has been a boon. All the companies that I worked with, including Google, believe in continuous learning culture where they invest in and facilitate the ongoing growth of employees, right? If I have to draw an example, the culture here at Google is incredibly open to sharing knowledge and ideas. There were things that I never even knew were possible that I heard for the first time during a tech talk or watching archived presentation, right? You have some leading experts in this field who are either your co-workers or happy to talk to. So to sum it up, there is never a right way to do it. Being a working parent, the keyword here is balance. Stay hungry and stay foolish.
That's true. And Google, as an organization, not only encourages its own employees to continue learning, but also we conduct programs like this Cloud Sprint, wherein we encourage non Googlers. We are gathering a heterogeneous group of non Googlers and we are encouraging them to learn. So that's a lot of tips around self leadership. And thank you so much for sharing all of your best practices. I also have few questions around how you motivate your team because self leadership is one dimension. Another one is all three of you are people leaders. So, Vani, I have a question for you. How do you create this mental safety and transparency within the team, especially when we are all working from remote, from different places?
Yeah. So the way in which I would like to think about it is we live in a world of cultural scarcity, right? A culture of never enough. I'm not good enough, skinny enough, intelligent enough, or I don't have enough Instagram followers, right? You can fill in the blanks. Thought of never enough. And as a result, what happens is that we feel vulnerable, we shut down. But it takes courage to turn around the situation. Trust me, it's hard sometimes living in this fast paced environment, specifically now with the COVID situation, where you and your entire team is working remotely and the lines between, work and family are blurring. Be it remote or not, building psychological safety is a cornerstone of success for every team, family, or be it organization, right? Now, coming to the question of how we can create a space of mental safety and transparency, it's funny enough, right? So that I can pinpoint those conversations, multiple instances throughout my career, those meetings where I would basically keep quiet. I would not be exposing myself if I talk or admit, right? When you hear others whispering, the person in the room who doesn't know. But over the years, right, what I've learned is the importance of having the vulnerability to find my courage, right? Let me talk about a recent instance, right? I walk into this virtual meeting room surrounded by smart people. They are talking about a subject that I have no clue about. It's really hard to be that person to say, I'm sorry, I don't understand a word that you're saying. Could you explain to me that one more time, right? But what I have learned and observed during my years is that when you ask those questions, right, when you make space for those conversations, then you make people in the same room to come in with their vulnerabilities as well. and as an outcome, a stronger relationship, a stronger team that trust you to take risk and ask for feedback, right? So this is what has worked for me, being an example, leading with example on how to build that corresponding space for mental safety and transparency.
I like that transparency. Nice, nice. Yeah. And when we speak this, the partner ecosystem plays a major role in the digital transformation for Google, especially in India. And for today's podcast, we have a lot of our viewers, in fact, most of our viewers from India. And that's one of the main reasons that we have decided to call Ankit from Sears. And I really see him as a very good techno functional leader and a people leader. So, Ankit, how do you drive this positive culture of continuous learning in your team? Because in the previous question that I have asked, you mentioned that word every day. It's not easy. It's definitely not easy to keep up that same energy level every day. So, how do you do this? How do you drive the positive culture of continuous learning in your team? And I'm sure you have a team of best brains of Google Cloud.
That's right, Eva. So at this point of time, Sears would have around 800 people that are kind of dedicating their lives to grow Google Cloud footprint in India and in Southeast Asia and in the US and the UK. Probably I would be in direct touch with around 150 of them. That is the organization that I'll have here. Uh, we were in fact also counting, might have exceeded 1000 interviews in the last 1 year. Interviews is also a good sense of actually learning. I personally learn a lot from interviews because people like to share what they know, and so I think like Rajat does jogging and listens to podcasts. If I have to, my excuse for learning would be I conduct more interviews. So we all find these tricks personally. But coming to the point that you were raising, it's become very critical to figure out what is basically stitching the organization together. We are talking in the wave two situation in India where everyone's definitely working from home. And I'll probably answer the question in 2 3 points, 3 points perhaps.
Sure, sure.
The first one would be, it's become much more important about how everybody is managing themselves. When we used to come to offices, you would basically have 70% of your learning based on the kind of company that you kept, by the times of the meetings that you were not really scheduled to attend, but you would kind of jump in, and just on all those serendipity conversations that you would have, there was really a lot of togetherness and learning that was happening. Things changed. Today, people that are managing themselves well are essentially obviously able to keep themselves engaged. Vani alluded to something. It takes a lot to kind of admit that probably I don't know things, and unfortunately, it's so easy to switch off the camera and hence switch off yourself during the remote meeting, and basically not look like a fool. In fact, no, not be visible at all. We are now a camera on company. We want people to be on all the time if they are essentially at work. And it's just not about showing your face, but it is essentially being participative. uh, a statistic that I can give you, because I used to be at Google a few years back. In India, the calendar utilization, the Google calendar utilization for enterprises used to be at 3%, just 3%. And that kind of reflected in the way companies were working, right? It'll be, yeah, the spirit of togetherness and team spirit. Let's kind of just spend time with each other. Now you notice that if people, individuals and companies are not obviously conscious of each other and each other's calendars and times, that is going to obviously be very unproductive. So managing yourself, managing your time, and encouraging people to do that is probably the first topic that I would say. The second thing is, which a young organization like ours has to constantly do, is to not follow stereotypes. You're a tech person, you're a support person, you're a salesperson. We know that this does not foster continuous learning in the organization, because people get very comfortable at a certain point of time in the roles that they do. and then they can sleepwalk through meetings. So we'll have salespeople who will basically sleepwalk through their meetings. There'll be support people who know exactly when a ticket is going to be created, even before the ticket has been created. The learning stops. uh, Out of our sheer necessity, we basically believe that the youth is a very, very powerful concept. They can learn everything. And hence, we encourage all our sellers to be GCP certified architects. We encourage all our GCP architects to essentially show up in front of clients in the meetings. We know that there is no point trying to judge somebody when he's 25, 26, to say that, oh, your future is now in the space of data and data alone. It's good to see somebody, the panelists here, who are constantly reinventing themselves and are proving that we should break stereotypes. We should personally break the stereotypes that the world has on us as an organization. Hence, we do not like to put people in the category of sales or technology and things like that. The third thing, and I know it's becoming a long answer, so please stay with me, bear with me.
That's okay. It's getting very interesting.
Okay, good. Thanks
I'm
for the
writing already.
Yeah. The third thing would be, how do rewards work? Most organizations need to manage large teams, and you would obviously have OKRs in place. I mean, because I spent so many years in Google, obviously, a lot of my learnings and all, essentially, I've been taking the great practices of Google and bringing it here. So one of the first things that I learned when I was at Google is, the world's most innovation driven company did not have an innovation department. And that kind of hit me that, yes, if you're really passionate about something that you need to drive, do not create a department for it and let it be somebody else's baby. uh, so bringing it to the learning piece here, we definitely at CS did not want to have a learning department, a department whose job was to conduct 18 trainings and ensure that 45 people attend every training and ensure that there is feedback recorded, and then people are just going through the motions. What we know is we have to reward curiosity. In every act of my CEO, in every act of every senior leader in the team, we need to reward curiosity. The point is that once we start to do that, once we are able to find out those small little points in a schedule where we can essentially pat on the back of a youngster or of a senior colleague as well, every time they asked a new question and they basically got something out from a learning perspective, that's when we know that we are doing a good job. We are a services and a consulting company. We do not create products most of the time. Our offerings to the world is basically the people that we'll have. We kind of get paid for the amount of knowledge we bring in every single interaction. If our folks are not curious, if we do not encourage curiosity, everything begins to fall apart. So for me, it's those small nudges. It's what kind of made Google the most innovative company, is not to have a chief innovation officer. And I would think that everything which is close to my heart, now I do not delegate it to another department. So long answer there. But yeah, that's from my side.
That's definitely a power packed answer with a lot of learnings. Yeah,
Thank you.
so I do have one final question. Um, Probably anybody can pick up this question, or maybe Rajat, you can pick this up as well. The key word is, I mean, the multitasking. As and when you said multitasking, you are also very cautious about stitching any two things, the right two things, in the name of multitasking, right? Otherwise, it will not create a balance. So, how do you find balance in everything, especially during these unprecedented times? That would be really helpful for me personally and many other viewers as well.
Sure. Yes, it's an interesting question because I think it all started off with chaos when the world went upside down last year. I'd be the first person to admit that I wasn't the most balanced person when it came to starting to work from home full time, right? And I think it's important to recognize that because a lot of people take upon themselves this responsibility that they have to be perfect, right? And it's totally okay to be full of flaws. The important thing is, how do you recognize that and get back on track, right? So and as much as my family makes fun of me, I am a slave to my schedule in many ways, right? So that is the only thing that was like my saving grace when it comes to trying to find some balance in it, right? So having a routine certainly helps. In fact, I have an alarm to wake up and an alarm to go to sleep, so it helps me make sure that I am reminded that I have to stop working and wind down to start getting ready for bed. But think about the things that matter the most, right? It's important to figure out what you don't want to do as much as what you should be working on, because given this constant stream of opportunities that comes our way, there is always stuff that you would want to do, right? And if you are a highly motivated individual, you would always want to do all of it. But really, you've got to figure out what's important. Is it family? Is it friends? Is it work? And in that order, particularly, and schedule them in your calendar. And that putting that in your calendar takes a lot of cognitive overload off your head. And more importantly, it makes you surprisingly consistent. So you don't really have to think, okay, I've got some time, what should I do? Because you already know what you're going to be spending your time on. And it also takes care of things that are like the most uninteresting ones sometimes. Like, as much as I see the value in exercise, I don't particularly enjoy it. And as a fun fact, for the longest time, I actually slept in my running clothes because I didn't want to wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock and look around for my clothes and use that as an excuse that I didn't go out for my run, right? So, balance would always help with schedule, and schedule is like kind of take all the cognitive overload out of your head and move on autopilot in that sense. So that's kind of what my answer is for this. Hopefully it helps.
I really like this alarm to sleep. I definitely need that. Not just an
I,
alarm to wake up.
I,
Yeah.
I had the digital well-being app on my phone, and now I'm addicted to check how well I'm doing on the digital well-being app. So I keep unlocking my phone and I keep spoiling my own count by checking how well-being is my digital presence. So this alarm to sleep is a good one. We take that from you.
Yeah, use that on my watch, not the phone. Stay away from the phone.
Yeah, and also I like this one more point from your balance, Ranjit. Consistency. Intensity is good, but consistency over intensity. I think that is what I would like to suggest to the learners of this Cloud Sprint program. And this is definitely one hell of a power packed podcast with tons of best practices. I'm feeling supercharged, and I'm sure the energy will pass on to anyone who's watching it. So the participants of Cloud Sprint program have been preparing for their Google Professional Cloud Architect exam for the last 2 months, and we have been tracking their progress on a weekly basis. So these kind of best practices will definitely motivate them to clear the exam soon and keep continuing their learning process. A message to all the Cloud Sprint viewers. Here is one of my best practice. I always vouch for cloud certification. So some of you have asked in the after the Cloud Sprint kickoff, why getting certified? I'm just learning it, and I may be doing the application and build it, but why getting certified? Internet has all the information, no doubt about it. But if we are looking for a structured learning, certification puts us into a sequential learning format with the right set of topics with the supporting labs and activity guides so that we don't get deviated with too much of information. And once you get the certification, add the badge to your resume, and your resume will definitely stand apart. What say, Ankit? You have conducted 1,000 interviews every year. That's almost like 3 interviews per day, isn't it? So
Yes, I
I'm
have.
sure your organization will give importance to certifications in the resume as well.
Certainly, as we discussed, we want people who show continuous learning. We want people. There are loads of people who graduate from an engineering schools, and that day they tell themselves that learning needs to end now. And we definitely want to. We don't want that hypothesis to spread across. In India, once you finish your engineering, that's when the learning starts. You become an engineer, and then you kind of decide what you need to do next. So we definitely want people to show that, demonstrate that through any exercise, including certifications. Yes.
That's nice. That was funny one. Okay. And I enjoyed learning along with all the Cloud Sprint viewers as well. So don't think I'm just conducting this program. I took the classes along with you, and I took the exam and cleared it as well. It's a very interesting exam, which has 4 new case studies as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed reading all the case studies and thinking through multiple products. So it's definitely a very interesting exam. So I would recommend all of you to take this exam in the month of June, July. and share us the result. And I'm not going to leave this opportunity to flaunt my certification gift. I've got this. I've got my Google Cloud Certified Architect jacket. So go clear your exam. And when you get the certification email, you will also get this swag link wherein you can order any kind of swags you want: water bottles, mugs, backpacks, or jackets. So definitely my time to flaunt here. Okay. We wish you the best of luck for your PCA exam on our behalf. And don't forget to fill out the survey form. Emma has provided it in the video link. Emma and Jen, thank you so much for this idea of the podcast and also coordinating it. Finally, word of thanks. Special thanks to Rajat, Vani, and Ankit for making some time to virtually visit the Cloud Sprint team and motivate us. Thanks a lot.
Happy to be
Thank you
here.
for the opportunity. All the best.
Thank you all.
Thank
Bye.
you. All the very
Bye-bye.
best. See
Bye.
you.
See
Bye.
you.